So welcome to Talking Downey with Mario
and Eric.
Hi folks, Mario Guerra, the two-time mayor of the great city of Downey, and I'm here with my co-host Eric Pierce, the editor of the Downey and the Norwalk Patriot newspapers. Welcome, Eric. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, Mario. How you doing?
I'm doing great, doing great. So
today we're talking about one of your favorite things, politics.
Politics. You know, I'm a politician, and I don't mind being called a politician. Being a politician is, politics is trying to sway people to what your opinion of things are and shape policy, which is okay if you have good intentions. So you can call me a politician. You know, most people think, oh, that's a sleazy thing. I'm good with it because I know my intentions.
Sure.
You know?
And see, I don't enjoy politics.
Yeah.
I don't mind talking politics. I don't like debating politics. You know, my viewpoint is I have my personal opinions.
Yeah.
I don't really care what everybody else's opinions are. You know, I don't feel the need to try to change people's minds, you know, and that's why I don't like talk, you know, like cable TV, whatever. It's like a sport to them, you know, as people going back and forth or whatever. I think people enjoy it. I don't enjoy it. You know, it's so important to us. I think you should be, you know, aware of what's happening. You know. But I don't know, but debating it doesn't do it for me.
I consider it my responsibility as an American, as a human being, to try to do what's right for others by getting more people involved. So to try to sway your opinion in the way that on these issues, and at least the very least to inform. Okay, I'm not going to try to push you to my decisions, but you know what? I want to inform you, and then hopefully you'll make the right decision because sometimes information is key.
100%. And you know, it's about making informed decisions. No matter what it is, I don't really care what it is, but at least have some basis for what. For the reason that you're voting the way that you are. Don't vote for things because you know of a person's last name or whatever. You know, have a reason for why you're voting for people.
So every year, and you've always been really kind in the Downey Patriot out there. I write every year opinion on an op-ed piece on the proposition, and I try to be very, very fair. Okay, this is what it says. This is. Who's for it or who's against it, right? And I always say, this is how I'm voting. I'm not telling you, hey, this is how you should vote. So I always enjoy that, and I get a lot of interaction, and a lot of people ask me, and people, when they haven't seen it, they actually call me or write to me and ask me for it. So last year, or 2020, November 2020, the last proposition we had, I remember that somebody, and you guys were fair, so somebody with a real radical other position basically wrote an op-ed, you guys published it, which every single proposition of what I said, they turned it around and said the opposite. Said the opposite on it. And for once, the California voters thought more like I did, and a lot of propositions that thought were going to go down, like you know, the Uber and so forth, and a couple other things were actually they actually won, or some that were defeated. That we think so. So. But
and that's what we're going to be talking about today. November election right around the corner. We have some statewide propositions. I'm not too familiar with them, but I know that you are. So we're going to run through them. You're going to give a brief explanation, and we'll talk about them.
Sure. So first of all, this will be the lowest amount. There are going to be 7 propositions on the ballot. 7. This is the lowest amount since 1916 in the state of California. 7 propositions, so yay, okay? At least we can make sense of tails. For example, in 2020, just to give you a reference, there was 12, so 5 more than what there are this year. So there's one that's a constitutional amendment, which is called Proposition 1. And as you know, after Roe versus Wade was sent back to the states, by the United States Supreme Court for the states to make those decisions. So California took a very aggressive position, and it's, you know, abortions were always going to continue to be legal in California with our governor, our legislation, and so forth. But they just passed up in Sacramento to make a constitutional amendment called Proposition 1 to basically make abortion on demand legal in the state constitution. So that's not going to change much. But it's interesting, even some liberal reporters, I was reading Skelton in the LA Times. George Skelton, which is, usually left for the most part. But he had some interesting things in talking to experts that they think that this proposition, even Democratic folks and people very pro-abortion, are figuring that this proposition went too far. It was so vague that it could actually be a partial birth abortion or abortion on demand the day before, and it, well past the 20 some odd weeks or whatever on there. I had never thought about it. I literally read that in the paper, so I'm not making that assumption. But abortions are legal in California. They're going to stay legal. Prop 1 is going to re-emphasize it and make it in the Constitution. But it's interesting that some of the experts there, again, the ones that are for it, saying that maybe it was too vague and it could come back and fire them and backfire in the election. So
Interesting.
it's an interesting perspective. Either way, abortions are going to be legal in California, regardless.
That's not going to change.
Yeah, regardless of what you think and so forth. So
what else?
So you have Proposition 26. So this is interesting. Proposition 26 and 27.
Yeah.
They're going to be confusing.
They're similar.
They're very similar. There's some nuances. 26, you've been seeing the commercials for 5 months, and you saw them ever since. Go through the election, you're still seeing them now. And it's about the Indian casinos, and they're talking about, there was a promise to them about having gambling and so forth. So they want to make online gambling or other sports betting legal, but you have to be in their casino.
Right.
Okay, so that's 26.
Okay.
They're saying, okay, we want legalized gambling more than just the slots and the cars, but you got to do it in us.
In their place.
In their place. Okay. So Proposition 27 that they're against, okay, for obvious reasons, is to legalize online gambling.
Right.
Okay. So obviously the 26 and the Indian casinos are opposed to it. It's a conflict and it's business and so forth. So 26 is only for the Indian casinos. 27 is online gambling.
Right.
And you see the commercials. It's going to cause addiction, and it's too easy to bet, and it's going to cause homelessness and all these other ill wills of the thing. Which online gambling has been legal in several states.
Already for years.
So anyway, so 26 Indian casinos, 27 online gambling.
What happens if they both pass?
They both passed, and you can have casino gambling on the Indian reservation, and you can have the online gambling too. So it's very conceivable that both of them can pass.
Interesting.
So I don't know what the nuances on those things are. So then Proposition 28. Proposition 28 is basically it funnels more state money into the arts and music education for public schools.
Okay, so I don't know much about this. It sounds to me like it sounds good.
Good, of course.
Okay.
Who doesn't want our kids to learn more about music and to do, the arts and so forth?
But there's always a but.
There's always a but. So, that's already contemplated in our state budget. And, by state law, a certain percentage of all revenues, which is the highest revenues now that we've ever had in the history of the state of California. We have over a $300 and some odd billion budget. We have $100 billion surplus, right?
Right.
So a certain percentage of every dollar that comes into the state has to be given to the schools.
Right.
And part of it is for music in the arts education. So the only part about this is just, again, who could be against it? But why aren't you doing that now? Why do we need extra money and tax it to do that? So that's going to be the concern. I think people will learn more about it. In the Downey Unified School District, right? We, a couple years ago, when funding was tight and so forth, we actually started the Downey Education Foundation to actually help pay for music in the arts, and it's thriving today. It's
the Downey Foundation for Educational Opportunities.
Opportunities, yeah. So that was originally started for music, for arts, and everything else, and it's been thriving. And it's people funnel. I donate to it separately and so forth. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah, I think it'll be a good debate. But again, it's almost like a trick thing because, of course, we want more arts and music.
How are people not going to vote for it? And it goes back to not really confusion over what you're voting for. I think.
Right. The interesting part on all these propositions, to get on the ballot, there's people that are paid anywhere from $5 to $10 per signature. You get, and then they hire the people outside of supermarkets going door to door. But the ones that make a lot of money in all these things are the consultants. They really are, or the mailers. And then the TV, every single time you see a TV commercial, there is a consultant or 10 being paid a percentage of what it costs to buy that airtime.
Interesting.
So this is employment season coming up.
It's lucrative.
It's very lucrative. It's very lucrative, yeah.
What else, Mario?
So here's one. This is the third year in a row. Okay, this is Proposition 29. Proposition 29 is dialysis companies. Okay, so the union keeps pushing for this to help regulate it even more so than it already is. And the dialysis folks, if you're on dialysis, you have to go daily, and you have to sit there for 2 or 3 hours to get your kidneys cleaned out. You don't want to risk less locations on there. You don't want to risk the cost going up because you need that literally to survive.
Yeah.
So the residents of the state of California have vetoed that 3 years in a row.
It seems like we're always voting on this.
So it tells you that they have a lot of money, and they're just figuring. They'll try a different approach on commercials. Wait till you see the creative commercials that they come up with, and they'll make you feel sorry. And then we're doing this and that. And anyways, it's the third year in a row. So it takes a lot to make that and put that on the ballot. So I'm cynical because, come on, dude, it's already 3 years in a row. You put the same thing on the ballot. We've voted down twice, so I'm sure it'll happen again.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Prop 30.
Prop 30, kind of self-serving. Prop 30 on there, it increases taxes on millionaires, a specific separate tax to build infrastructure and charging infrastructure stations. Okay. The one that put this on is Lyft, the car driver, the competitor to Uber and so forth. It's very self-serving because remember, Gavin Newsom, our governor, by a certain year in the 2030, I believe, I'm not sure if it's 2030 or whatever, that we will be all supposed to be all electric cars. You won't be able to buy a regular gasoline car in the state of California. So if you're a driver company like Lyft, you want to make sure there's a lot of charging stations out there. So let's just start paying for them now, and let's have the millionaires pay for it.
Right.
Self-serving, again, I don't make $1 million a year, but I think that everybody, if you're making the money legally, morally, ethically, that's the American dream. So you're already paying a higher percentage than everybody else. So to sure charge you even more so just seems, I don't know, punitive.
Is it, and I don't know, I'm putting you on the spot. Is it just millionaires? Is it a top level, a certain percentage? Is it a 1%er? Or do you know?
I know that it starts off with $1 million, okay, and it goes up from there. And so what the percentage is on there. So, and I get it, and you can, again, some of the culture today says, "Wow, you shouldn't have that much money." And again, did you make it honestly? Did you work hard to get it? And okay, well, your family inherited. Well, then my dad or my grandfather worked hard. Was it ethical? Was it legal? On there, do I give it charity? Am I a good person? So I don't begrudge the millionaires and the multimillionaires, and I'm not one of them, but I don't begrudge them because, you don't have to be you don't have to be a bad person just because you're wealthy.
Sure. now that part aside, we do need more electric vehicle charging stations everywhere.
Of course.
If we're going to meet that goal,
of course,
we need that.
We have $100 billion surplus. $100 billion. Okay, extra. That's surplus. We'll pay all our bills, and we have this left over. It's like you and I. We have our paycheck. We pay all our bills. We put money into savings, which our budget does for the state of California, and we have $100 billion left over.
Right.
So it's not like we don't have the money. And then what happens is the majority of our income, of the $300 and some odd billion income that we have in the state, comes from that because our state taxes are disproportionate.
Right.
So the higher income people, and they're making more money, so they're paying more. But here's the interesting part: when our economy looks like slowed down, we're going into a recession now. When the millionaires make less money, there's going to be less money going into the state. And that's one of our tax structure in the state, and every governor has said that. Every governor, doesn't matter you're left, right, or in the middle, has said that. And it's kind of interesting because we fluctuate based on the economy, and it should. We should have a more consistent revenue stream. So nobody disputes that, just nobody wants to tackle it.
Absolutely.
So, but anyways, yeah.
One more proposition.
One more.
Prop 31.
Prop 31. This is to change a little bit, reconsider California's ban on the sale of flavored tobacco.
Flavored tobacco.
I don't care. I mean, I don't know whether it impacts minority communities that like flavored tobacco or kids out there. Excuse me, I do care if it impacts our youth on that they're starting to smoke more because of flavored tobacco and those little steam things and so forth. So this vapes, that's it. Okay, I'm too old to remember that. Okay, all right. Yeah, vapes. So
things.
I know, same things. Yeah, those little things out there that do a lot of puffing.
Yeah.
So this will it basically reconsiders the full total ban on that. And there's some things you can make an argument for. It's too restrictive. Okay, on certain things. But it's already legal at a certain age anyway. So if they want to, they can still get it. They can still get it from other states. So I don't.
I wouldn't see. I haven't done any research into this.
Sure.
I would assume that the concern is that flavored tobacco targets children.
Absolutely.
I would assume.
Absolutely.
And it does.
It was the remember the Camel guy, okay?
Yeah,
Camel
Joe
cigarette.
Camel,
Yeah,
yeah.
Joe Camel. It looked really cool and stuff like that. And then of course you had it all started with the Marlboro Man that
Right.
everybody would go goo goo gaga because he was so handsome
Yeah.
and I gotta smoke a cigarette because if I smoke Marlboro I'm gonna look just like him.
Yeah.
The
cool guy.
Yeah, the cool guy, and then
Yeah.
I'd be dead now. So
Yeah.
but
Interesting.
anyways, so Eric, this is just the beginning. You're gonna see so much money in television ads. You've already seen them now. It's kind of goofy. We have the governorship election with the governor. It looks like he's going to be comfortable. How many the turnout ratio for that's an off-year election. That's going to be interesting. For the first time since 2014, we have a Democrat and a Republican on the top of every single Constitution office in the state. So from governor, lieutenant governor, controller, treasurer, insurance commissioner. So
Right.
you have one of each. That's kind of different when it changed to the top two.
Sure.
So that'll be interesting. So and then of course we have all our assembly people. In Downey, we're going to have a new assembly person.
New congressperson?
New congressperson. By the way, we were looking at some of the numbers today. So if you go on Mayor Robert Garcia from Long Beach, if you
Right.
go on his website, it kind of breaks down the election and the primary and so
Right.
forth. So how he won it, and then who came in second, Doug Briscoe, and Christina Garcia, our assemblywoman, actually came in a very distant third. But if you look at Northeast Downey, it was very conservative.
Oh, so
voting on there. So-
all Republicans.
On there,
And
yeah.
that's not a surprise.
Yeah. Oh no, it's not a surprise, but it's interesting to see even in the city of Downey how bad Christina Garcia did.
Right.
And to be honest with you, even our mayor Blanca Pacheco didn't do as great as she
Right.
expected to in the city of Downey.
Right.
So maybe some of those decisions that she's made kind of.
And I was, I'll share my opinion. I was disappointed to see, the northeast quadrant of Downey really went with the Republican, and not because, not so much because he's Republican, but him as a person. He's a terrible human being, and I'm just being honest, and we'll get into those reasons later on. But if you want to look him up on Twitter, you'll see why I say that. And so that was a little disappointing. It was people voting along partisan lines, which really kind of bugs me. Vote for the best candidate,
That's how
whether
we got.
it's city council.
That's
or
how we got
whatever.
Catherine Alvarez in office. They voted for the party lines, the woke culture, a female, Hispanic name,
Right.
top of the ticket, and way on the left. So that hasn't changed, and I don't know if it will.
I don't think it
So-
will. But you're right. November, huge election, with consequences from the top to the bottom, and in a non-presidential election, I hope we get a good turnout.
Yeah, I think so. And then from our standpoint, we're going to have the candidates We're looking to host a candidates forum, especially for city council, and how we do that, and we'll interview them and make sure that you, our Downey residents, are aware of the people, so at least position-wise.
So you're informed of who's running
absolutely.
and what they want to do.
Yeah, because the last time, it was in November 2020. We had to do things on Zoom. You didn't get a chance to meet the candidates per se and vet them right.
Right.
So anyway,
Well,
okay,
good stuff coming up.
good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Eric, anything else you want to add?
No, thank you, Mario. I know you're always on top of all of our local political news, so thank you for doing that. Like you said, we'll talk more about the election coming up.
Great.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. We enjoy doing this, and thank you, Mario.
Great. Well, thanks for listening. Talking Downey with Mario
And Eric.